right, so the worst part, which is really the best part, is about to come, is yet to come. And so we just got to hold on. Let's celebrate every step of the way, right? So more and more information is coming out. It's more and more damning. It's not looking good for the head clown or any of his cohorts. And he's behind the scenes, walking around, no comment, no comment. He won't talk to anybody. And now he's trying to, rail on about, oh, I'm going to go after the Democrats and we're going to have a special investigation where we redact all of the Republican names from the document and we only go. I mean, how crazy is that, right? Like, it's like textbook guilty behavior. When someone accuses you of something, what are the guilty responses that you that you can see, right? There's refusing to talk, there's following questions with other questions, there's trying to distract people and get people to talk about something else, right? There's calling it a hoax, right? These are all the behaviors of a guilty party. All right, let's talk about some of the new stuff that's come out and how it's related to the ongoing saga, the ongoing circus mobster saga, the story I've been telling for a year now. So some of you may recall that very early on in the storytelling process, I introduced you to the cast of characters, and recall there was a pretty large cast of characters and it spanned through several realms. And so we weren't just talking about a main character, right? We were talking about a whole cast of characters, including an extremely large number of villains. So many villains, in fact, that we began to question the integrity of this story. Like, could a story really have that many villains? And then we also had to wonder, how could one story have this many plot twists, right? And yet it does. And somehow the story still works. We're still engrossed. We're still on the edge of our seat. We're still really, really involved in this story and what the ending is going to look like. Like, we're really invested. Even though we don't like the villains, we're really invested in seeing justice served, right? And so that's why we're willing to keep following this horrible story about these villains and all of their, nefarious deeds, because we're just waiting for the really, really fulfilling happy ending to this sad story. And so in the most recent episode of this story, we've seen some really interesting revelations about some of our main characters come out. And as predicted, many of the characters who were introduced separately in the original story, are all connected. And so you may recall that early on in the story, there was talk of how there was this network, this global network of bad traffic, this global network of mobsters, this global network of wealthy merchants, this global network of dictators, and how all of these different stories and these different, sets of characters were all linked. But as we've gone on, we've kind of had to address each set of characters separately, each realm separately, and now they're finally all coming together as prophesied. And so just this week we had a wonderful revelation about a messenger from one of the town criers. Actually, all the town criers are talking about these messages. Somebody found a bag of email with an E on it, this whole big bag of mail. Just like, oh my God, thousands and thousands of letters that were left by the side of the road. And as our town criers are going through these letters and reporting on them, we are all on the edge of our seat and just listening like, oh my God, we got our popcorn out, we're phoning a friend, we got lots of chit chat in the background. Some of us have friends over watching the show together because, oh my goodness, so many revelations. So one of the revelations that just came out has to do with a certain dictator, Rasputin, and how he's connected to another character called Epi and another character called Head Clown. And yes, we have now proof of this network. The proof is coming out, and that's the exciting plot twist in this story, is that this bag of mail, of letters that was sitting on the side of the road apparently for 10 years, and no one reported on it till now. But now the letters are being read, they're being dictated out on the town square, and it is fascinating. And so there's another letter that brings in another character who was never even in the original cast of characters. But now they got this new character called Bubba, who's actually an old character from a previous story of a different circus. And apparently people are now saying that the head clown was giving some services to Bubba. And you know, this kind of changes this kind of changes everything. And you know, it doesn't. I mean, it's funny, it's hilarious, and we like a good laugh, right? We need a good laugh because this story, it's, you know, it's kind of one part horror, one part mystery, and then another part comedy. And we have to enjoy the comedic elements of this story when we can, because the horror can be overwhelming. The horror of the story can be overwhelming at times. And so Bubba was getting a, I can't even say these words on here. And really, you would never expect a town crier to have to talk about such things, about people's, you know, boudoir activities. But here we are. And then we can't help but be entertained by the side quests of the main character, the head clown, right? Because in the midst of all these town criers talking about all these letters, about all these boudoir activities that involve all these villains, we've got the head clown meandering around trying to go on side quests, talking about nuclear this and war that, and oh, jobs, we're never going to collect jobs reports again, and you know, and like random executive orders about children, because that's going to convince anybody that they care about children. So apparently there's this website called Leaving the Land of Magatonia, and the guy that runs that is like, look, the Magatonians know, you know, the cat's out of the bag. They all know that the head clown is guilty. Like, they're not all, but substantial. This guy claims, this is just word on the TikTok streets. I don't know if it's true, but he claims Magatonians are aware and they're outraged. And then there's another thing that the Magatonians are outraged about, apparently, according to the New York Times. Apparently they're really upset that this realm first agenda that the circus ran on isn't really coming to fruition. It seems like instead of it being our realm first, it's that realm down south first, or maybe the wealthy merchants first, but it doesn't seem to be our realm first, and it certainly doesn't seem to be working Magatonian first, right? So yeah, poll numbers aren't looking good. There's a lot of buyer's remorse, if you will. And apparently it's even a big old brouhaha over on the Not So Truth social streets, where the Magatonians are up in arms about these epi files and why their fearless leader is calling it a hoax. And meanwhile, the head clown is now on his knees begging the Red Hats to please stop talking about this. Just whatever you do, please stop talking about those darn files. And don't talk about those letters either. Like, can we just stop talking about all of this? We're not going to stop. Like, nobody's going to stop talking about this ever, until it's all come out, until the survivors are vindicated, until justice is served. We are all going to keep talking about this. This is like the story that never dies. You know how in every family there's one story? It's usually an embarrassing story about a family member, right? That always gets brought back up at every holiday, every gathering, every wedding, every funeral. That story always comes back. People always retell it. This is that story. It's not going away. And this story will be the downfall of the circus, because this story is a story that's nested in many other stories about global graft, corruption, bad traffic, right? Dictatorships, money funneling. It's all the same story. And that's what's so, you know, interesting about this story, is how complex it is. Pop your popcorn. Season finale is going to be lit.